The clatter of plates and the hum of polite chatter were the usual soundtrack to my evenings at the Gilded Spoon. It was a fancy place, one of those restaurants where the forks probably cost more than my rent. I'd been a waitress here for 5 years, and I thought I'd seen it all. The dazzling proposals, the hushed business deals, the occasional spilled wine that always seemed to land on the whitest dress. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the night Mrs. Albright walked in. Mrs. Albright wasn't just wealthy. She was obnoxiously wealthy. You could tell by the way she carried herself, like the very air around her belonged to her alone. Tonight, she was draped in a fur coat that probably once belonged to a small, fluffy country, and a diamond necklace that glittered with enough light to land a small plane. She had this perpetually pursed mouth, as if everything around her tasted slightly of lemon. The evening started like any other. I was bustling between tables, refilling water glasses, delivering perfectly plated scallops, and trying to remember if Table 7 wanted their steak medium rare or medium well. Then, Mrs. Albright's table was next. "Good evening, madam," I said, offering my most practiced polite smile. "Welcome to the Gilded Spoon. Can I get you something to start with?" She barely glanced at me, her eyes sweeping over the menu as if it were a particularly offensive insect. "Just water. And make sure it's sparkling. And cold." Her voice was a low, guttural rumble, like a distant storm. "Of course," I replied, already heading for the water station. I knew the drill with her type. They liked to assert their dominance early. The rest of their meal continued in a similar vein. Every request was a demand, every instruction a thinly veiled criticism. The bread wasn't warm enough. The butter was too hard. The wine, a vintage that cost more than my car, was acceptable, I suppose. I kept my composure, my smile fixed, my replies neutral. It was a skill I'd perfected over the years, the art of being invisible yet perfectly present. Then came the main course. Mrs. Albright had ordered the pan-seared halibut. I delivered it with a flourish, placing the plate carefully in front of her. The chef, Marco, was particularly proud of this dish. It was delicate, flavorful, and always perfectly cooked. Mrs. Albright took one look at it, then let out a sharp, disgusted sound that made several nearby diners flinch. "What is this abomination?" she declared, her voice rising, drawing attention. My heart sank. "Is there something wrong with your dish, madam?" She poked at the perfectly flaky fish with her fork. "This isn't cooked properly. It's dry. And the presentation. It looks like something a common peasant would eat." She eyed me up and down, a sneer twisting her features. "Frankly, your service tonight has been utterly disappointing. You seem to lack any understanding of fine dining. Perhaps you're better suited for a diner, dear, where the expectations are considerably lower." The words stung, burning in my ears. My cheeks flushed, and I could feel my polite smile faltering. I'd dealt with rude customers before, but her personal attack, her dismissal of my worth, it felt different. It felt personal. I took a deep breath, fighting back the tremor in my voice. "I apologize that your experience hasn't met your expectations, madam," I managed to say, my voice a little tighter than I would have liked. "I can certainly have the chef prepare you another dish." "Don't bother," she huffed, pushing the plate away with such force that it nearly slid off the table. "I've lost my appetite. And frankly, I don't wish to be served by someone so utterly incompetent. Call your manager. Immediately." My blood ran cold. Calling the manager was a big deal. It usually meant a formal complaint, maybe even a mark against my record. I nodded, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach, and turned to find Mr. Henderson, our usual evening manager. He was a kind man, but strict, and I knew he wouldn't tolerate any issues, especially from such a high-paying customer. As I walked away, I could hear her still complaining loudly to her dinner companions. "Honestly, the staff here is just dreadful tonight. It's a miracle this place is still in business with such incompetence." I found Mr. Henderson near the bar, checking inventory. "Excuse me, Mr. Henderson," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Mrs. Albright at table 4 is requesting to speak with a manager. She's quite upset with her meal and my service." He raised an eyebrow, a flicker of concern in his eyes. He knew Mrs. Albright. "All right, Anna. I'll handle it. Thank you." I watched him walk towards her table, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I felt humiliated, exposed. All those years of hard work, of biting my tongue, of striving for perfection, and now this. A wealthy woman, who probably never had to work a day in her life, tearing me down with such casual cruelty. I imagined her words echoing in the manager's office, leading to a disciplinary meeting, maybe even a cut in my shifts. Mr. Henderson reached Mrs. Albright's table. I saw him nod, listen to her tirade with a calm expression, then turn and glance in my direction. My stomach lurched. Was this it? Was I about to be publicly reprimanded? Then, something shifted. Mr. Henderson's calm expression changed. His eyes, which had been fixed on Mrs. Albright, widened slightly. A look of surprise, recognition, flashed across his face. He said something quietly to her, and I saw Mrs. Albright's confident smirk falter. Her eyes, which had been blazing with indignation, suddenly became fixed on something, or someone, behind me. I turned, my curiosity piqued despite my dread. And there, standing in the doorway of the private dining room, was a woman. She was impeccably dressed, her silver hair pulled back in a sleek bun, her posture regal. She had a gentle, knowing smile on her face, but her eyes, those beautiful, intelligent eyes, were sharp and observant. It was Miss Eleanor Vance. Miss Vance was an enigma to most of us. She was rarely at the restaurant, but when she was, everyone knew it. She was the one who funded the staff Christmas bonuses, the one who sent thoughtful cards when someone was ill, the one who made sure the kitchen staff had the best equipment. She was, in short, the owner of the Gilded Spoon. And Mrs. Albright, who had been ranting and raving just moments before, now looked like she'd seen a ghost. Her face, usually a mask of haughty disdain, was now a pale, mottled shade of white. Her mouth, which had been so quick to hurl insults, was now agape, frozen in a silent gasp. Her eyes, filled with contempt for me just seconds ago, were now wide with a mixture of shock and utter terror, fixed on Miss Vance. Miss Vance, with that same gentle, knowing smile, walked slowly towards Mrs. Albright's table. The clatter of the restaurant seemed to fade into a hush. Every eye in the room was now on them. "Eleanor," Mrs. Albright whispered, her voice a thin, reedy sound, completely devoid of its former venom. Miss Vance simply nodded, her gaze unwavering. "Hello, Sandra. It's been a while. I see you're enjoying our hospitality." Her voice was soft, but it carried an undeniable authority. Mrs. Albright visibly swallowed, her eyes darting between Miss Vance and me. The arrogance had completely drained from her. She looked small, shrunken, like a deflated balloon. The expensive fur coat and glittering diamonds suddenly seemed to weigh her down instead of elevating her. Miss Vance then turned her gaze to me, and her gentle smile warmed. "Anna," she said, her voice clear and kind, "is everything all right here?" I found my voice, a little shaky, but present. "Yes, Miss Vance. Just a slight misunderstanding." Miss Vance nodded, then turned back to Mrs. Albright, her smile tightening ever so slightly. "Sandra, I understand there was an issue with your meal and the service provided by Anna. Anna is one of our most valued employees, always professional, always dedicated. I assure you, her incompetence, as you so eloquently put it, is certainly not something we've ever observed." Mrs. Albright stammered, trying to find words, but none seemed to come. She looked absolutely mortified. The woman who had just minutes ago insulted me, dismissed my hard work, and demanded my manager, was now completely speechless, utterly humiliated. "Perhaps," Miss Vance continued, her voice still calm but with an underlying steel, "you would prefer to dine elsewhere if our establishment and our staff do not meet your exacting standards." The silence in the restaurant was deafening. Mrs. Albright didn't even try to argue. She simply nodded, her head bowed, her face a mask of profound embarrassment. She fumbled for her purse, paid the bill with trembling hands, and then, without another word, she practically fled the restaurant, her fur coat trailing behind her like a tattered flag of surrender. I watched her go, a strange mix of emotions swirling inside me. Relief, certainly, but also a quiet satisfaction, a sense of justice, even if it was a small one. Miss Vance, my boss, the owner of this magnificent restaurant, had stood up for me. She had seen my worth, even when a wealthy customer tried to diminish it. Miss Vance turned to me again, her smile now full and genuine. "Anna, are you truly all right?" I nodded, a genuine smile finally breaking through my own shock. "Yes, Miss Vance." "Thank you." "Good," she said, a twinkle in her eye. "Now, why don't you take a few minutes to compose yourself? And then, perhaps, you can tell Marco that I'll be needing a new halibut dish for table 4, and make sure it's cooked to perfection, as always." And with that, she gave my arm a reassuring squeeze and walked gracefully back towards her private dining room. I stood there for a moment, the hum of the restaurant slowly returning, the sounds of polite chatter filling the air once more. But for me, the evening had been anything but ordinary. It was a stark reminder that true wealth wasn't just about money or expensive coats, but about kindness, respect, and standing up for what's right. And tonight, I had seen a powerful display of all three.